Dizzying explosions, shattering windows, knocking these office workers to the ground. Across the horizon, followed by an almost apocalyptic scene, a blinding flash of light, and then all hell broke loose.
It's written, and it's one of my favorite sayings, those who forget history are bound to repeat it. A fireball explodes, and several have since then. Some have hit ground, we've covered those. Actually, in months where we predicted those impacts, which is very rare, and I don't know of many people out here who predict impacts off of a YouTube channel. But that was the last one we predicted, was China. And it was due to a close approach of a comet. Very close approach. Now, I just want to say about these comets and about these fireballs. I mean, if you're new to this channel and you don't know who this is and what I've done and any of my accomplishments, that's fine, because data is data. I can hand you data, a monkey can hand you data, and it's the same data. However, I just want to add to that I just want to share some extreme pride when I look back and try, I look at all the accomplishment and how far ahead of mainstream this channel has been, scientifically wise, solar system wise, Planet X wise. And there's a whole list of accomplishments. We were the first channel to do this, and one of the first to do that, and the list just goes on, and the whole list put together doesn't make me as proud and as happy and as emotional as the response that we got to the humanitarian crisis that was unfolding in California at Kelly Ridge. People that were devastated from Berry Creek fire. That fire looked like an atomic bomb went off, even from satellites. Incredible. And of course, rolling blackouts due to high wind. Because we were held liable, the power company says, well, we're not going to be held liable again. So they shut off the power so people could not be alerted as to the fire. And 50-mile-an-hour winds and extra, ground temperatures 40 degrees above average, the lowest humidity in the history of humidity. Add to that, mind you, a little mineral oxide dust, precipitate, that has come down in the moisture over the months and precipitated upon the leaves, leaving a very fine and hardly detectable white dust on the leaves of trees. Broadleaf trees more susceptible to this. But when you do it on a eucalyptus tree, an entire 30-foot eucalyptus tree can go up in a second and a half. Whoosh, like a giant match. And these people were yanked from their homes with the clothes on their back and the car hot and choking on smoke, and driving to anywhere they could park that was safe, because every place that was safe was already occupied by other fire victims. Many of these people ended up in a parking lot at a little tiny market. on Kelly Ridge, and within 2 days, there was already a humanitarian crisis in progress. And these fires are a symptom, just like the meteors are a symptom. You think wildfires and meteors have nothing in common? Well, if apocalyptic wildfires are what we are actually referring to, unbelievable, where the smoke goes around the world, that kind of stuff. All right, hey, I laugh because it's so obvious, and it's better than getting angry. And I laugh I pity, like Mr. T used to say, I pity the fool. And now I laugh at them. But after screaming and preaching and hollering and begging people to just look at the data, people who think I'm crazy, I pity the fool. I pity the fool. Who's the crazy one? Now that it's all playing out. But to keep on track, I have inappropriate laughter. I do it all the time. But Kelly Ridge, there was no laughter. Because a member of the channel, Kimberly, went up to Kelly Ridge and saw the crisis unfolding. There was no public health. Public health was scattered and stretched. There was no FEMA. FEMA was scattered and stretched. And there were no 911 vehicles there because people were driving victims to hospitals, or the 911 were for individual problems, not for a humanitarian crisis. And so I rushed a video out. It got 20,000 hits in 24 hours. YouTube unshadow banned it because of the humanitarian crisis. There's some, silver lining to the YouTube insanity where they block the truth and feed you things that could be dangerous. Could be, not to say it is, but God bless YouTube. They let the video go up on search engines, and we literally had hundreds of dollars of gas cards were sent to one of the ladies who had a restaurant there at a nearby place, Paradise, that got overran 2 years ago. So here's a fire victim helping other fire victims. The owners of the store were Indian descent, from India, Middle Eastern, and he took in donations and matched all those gas cards. And then with my video, you guys sent, and I said don't send gas cards, but some people did anyway, because the lady from Paradise, when we showed her video, said they could use gas cards. Anyways, stuff poured in from you guys. A lady contacted me from Nevada with a trailer. She wanted and was willing to pull her trailer over just to give people a place to live. The shelters from the sun was poor. The sun was bright and hot. The elevation high. Shade was nice. So Kimberly went and made a couple phone calls to public health, the county. She made phone calls to radio stations. And our video was already up and running. And within 24 hours of that video going up and the boot on the ground, the next day they had public health there. FEMA showed up, didn't do anything, but they made an appearance. At least they didn't do anything right away, excuse me. Within 3 days, diapers, baby formula came pouring in. The issue we were seeing were babies were getting sweat rashes, which is usually fungal, diaper rashes, conjunctivitis, and earaches. And so we did a matching protocol because we work on a shoestring and operate in the red. We did a matching promotion where if you bought silver, we matched it and sent it. And we had a lady there whose sister was a naturopath that showed up 48 hours from the video being made. We overnighted the first shipments of silver. We overnighted it to the Butte County Post Office. When 48 hours, there was colloidal silver on the premises. They were putting the 500 parts per million, one drop into the baby's eyes. They were doing the 500 parts per million, 2 drops in the baby's ears if they had an earache. For the rash, they used the heavy one, and I can't remember if it was a 5,000 or 10,000 parts per million, but I'm thinking it was the 10,000 parts per million. For diaper rash and external rashes, cuts, anything like that, scrapes, to prevent infection. Within 72 hours, the town of Oroville rallied, and they had tarps and tents, like a little tent city. There was shade for as much shade as they needed. And they had booths where they had their clothing, and they were donating it, and you had to sign and register and receive a donation, and so they could use that as a write-off. But you could get Levi's, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts. You could get pants. You could get Levi's, shoes, socks, whatever you wanted. They were going to be given to you. You would just walk up to one of these booths like it was a carnival, and they would give it to you. You just had to register and show ID so that you wouldn't just come back and rob them over and over again. So really was impressed in 72 hours that all crisis had been averted. But half of the help to Kelly Ridge, half of it came from channel subscribers like you. And if I were to die tomorrow, the cancer research, I kind of regret because it made me a target. But that's what I'm most proud of. But number 2 would have to be Kelly Ridge. Number 3 would have to be when I was a director of a senior living, and we were the number 1 property out of 92 properties. We were number 1 in terms of move-ins, low turnover, budgetary. We were number 1 all across the board, and I was proud of that. But I worked 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, and for an entire year, just to get it to that point. So that's number 3. My whole life has been spent trying to educate people. And in fact, I make people uncomfortable in public settings. They kind of avoid me because I won't shut up about what's happening. And I push away a lot of people. But it's not about them. It's not about, will you like me? It's about, in the end, when I leave this world, how will I be judged? And we all make mistakes. You know, when you grow up living a lie as a child, you end up living lies as an adult. And that's why I founded the Higher Truth channel. I just decided, you know, the truth hurts. Sometimes it's not politically correct, but it's hard to argue at the pearly gates why truth didn't matter. So I just want to ascend. I don't want to have to come back and do this world all over again. I've paid my dues, and I've accomplished so much. But my message to you is figure out why all these meteors are here. Why did it go from 0 to 1 a year to 740? Meteors breaking the sound barrier. And don't tell me improved reporting, because that can't account for all the numbers. It cannot. It can account for some of the increases when you start taking reports from other countries instead of just the United States or North America. But these latest meteors, they're following one another, and more of them now are headed on a northern trajectory, whereas I would have placed bets that these large fireballs were on southern trajectories, because that was the pattern that we were seeing. So somewhere along the line, the pattern is shifting, and has started to shift. And we've showed you the map of the significant meteor craters lining up vertically on planet Earth. You know, go due north, due south of a meteor crater, you're going to run into another meteor crater that was made sometimes thousands of years apart. But what are they doing on the same longitude? You got to ask these questions. You've got to figure out why. But when you see that everything going on is a symptom of a solar system rolling catastrophe, when you see it happening in that realm, then what happens social politically may look a little different to you. Could what you see be a show? Could it be brainwashing? Could it be open and blatant disinformation fed to people who believe it is the truth and report it as the truth? What do you believe anymore? Well, the proof is always in the data, and the data is going away. But not before we were able to look at it and figure out everything that's happening. But people are questioning now, more now than ever, all that is happening. They are more open to that discussion now than ever before. They're more open to preparation. They are. I'm meeting people in the grocery store, complete strangers, starting to talk about the food prices and then talking about how it's planned. And all of a sudden, well, you know, we're in a small town. What are you doing up here? And the next thing you know, I'm trading medical promises for a generator. I got myself a generator. By somebody who lives 100 yards away from me, who I met in a grocery store at a town that's about 50 miles away. We just bumped into each other, and they were hoarding on anything that was on sale, and so was I. And so making an alliance out of complete strangers was unheard of. So try to make alliances with not complete strangers, but with your neighbors. Figure out that the meteors are actually related to the war in Ukraine. When you figure that out, that it's part of a rolling extinction, and that depopulation could be an agenda that they deem absolutely necessary. You know, hey, And it's going to be the life raft in the ocean scenario. You have 5 days of food for 5 people, but yet you got 30 people clinging to your life raft, and they all want food and water too, and you can't possibly take care of them. So what happens? The strong survive. That's what happens. And sometimes not even the strong survive. That's a message to take home.